going to be reviewing a book that I just completed called Vale. I even got an autograph copy, so that's extra cool. It's my first one that's autographed, so it makes me feel really special. So, big shout out and thanks to Mia, the author. So, Vale is, it's interesting because it's not just something that you can describe in one word. It's a big old smorgasbord of all kinds of stuff, but it's a good kind of mix. So it's a dystopian fantasy that involves vampires and humans. It's not a typical vampire story. So now, does it remind me of Twilight in a sense? But that's only because Twilight's now like the stereotype vampire, so you can't help but think about Twilight when you think of vampires and romance. It's just kind of one of those things, but it is definitely not Twilight. In fact, it goes above and beyond, and it actually makes you think, which is good. I enjoy thinking. I don't know about you. Typical stereotypes of vampires doesn't apply to the vampires in this story. So any myth or stereotypes like crosses and garlic and sun and all those things don't really have to do with these vampires. In fact, vampires can make babies, which that's neat. That's really cool. I mean, like Twilight, they did too, but there was a human involved in that one. But like vampire on vampire, they can make like little vampire kids. So that also, I guess, are immortal. So that's also something different, and I really enjoyed that. So if I'm going to put this all in a little box and package it nicely for you, I would say it is Romeo and Juliet meets Twilight. Then they go and they have coffee with a Dan Brown book. Just got a little bit in there of the coffee and like secret society kind of coffee. And then just trust me. Or go read it. Don't trust me. Read it. Form your own opinion. So it does have something for everyone. Now, first and foremost, it is a romance novel. I really enjoy these tropes. I do. They're my guilty pleasure. I love the boy meets girl, love at first sight. I don't know. There's just something warm and cozy and fuzzy about it. Now, like I said, Romeo and Juliet. Let's get back to this. So here we've got, I was going to say two people, but that's a lie. We've got an immortal and a mortal. The immortal, way top of the food chain, because not only is he immortal, he's the big kahuna, okay? So he's in charge. He's intimidating. He's somebody that all the vampires are even afraid of. And then we got over here a little mortal who's nothing. Like, she's from such a small area that she isn't even coded, which we'll get to that in just a moment, what that even means. And she lives in a convent. So, very different worlds right there. But, you know, we all like to taste the forbidden fruit sometimes, so that's what they do. And come on now. Who doesn't like a little Romeo and Juliet love? Like, I don't know, there's just something exciting about the don't push the red button. Yeah, I'm going to push that red button. We all get a thrill out of it. Just, I don't know. If we can't be risky in life, why not read risky? Okay, so yes, there are other stories where people know about vampires. But I feel like even in those stories that I've read where people know they exist, the vampires still don't have the power. Like, they're still, for some reason, trying to please the humans. So that way their existence is okay and it's safe. Come on now. Let's think logically. Like, if vampires were real logic. If I was immortal and there were a lot of us, I'm not going to be afraid of some puny little mortal. No, I'm going to eat that mortal because I'm a vampire. I'm not going to be afraid. So this book got that right. Absolutely. The vampires are going to be running the show. And the dystopian part, well, that's the humans. They're broke up in these little coded, tells you I get back to the codes, factions, and like they're branded like a freaking cow. I mean, it's legit. This is what I envision of a world full of monsters like vampires is going to look like. They're going to run the show. Now, it took like a rebellion and upbringing or whatnot to get there. But man, that's realistic. That's what I'm talking about. But I still get the romance. This book was long, y'all. Like, long. It's 600 pages. But it's not a bad long. I like long stories. It gives me time to fall in love with the characters more. You know what I mean? Like, I have my moods where I'm going to want a quickie, a short story. So, you know, be like, oh, yeah, I really want a story right now. I'm just going to get me one in real fast. But then I like the ones that I like want to cuddle with for a little bit, get warm with, get to know it a little bit better before, like, dive into the action. So long books are good. The two characters that are in it, it's... when you see it, I promise you this is how it's pronounced because the author says it rhymes with Kara. So I'm going to say it, and if this is wrong, somebody call me out. But I distinctly remember it saying it rhymed with his dead wife Kara's name. So her name is Mira. It doesn't look like that when you're looking at it, but what name really does look like it's spelled? I remember working in a mortgage company and pulling up a lot of files that looked like somebody just got really angry and smacked a keyboard a lot, but somehow it made a sound that made sense when you heard it out loud, but then you looked at it and were like phonetically that no. So, you know, break some rules. I like rule breakers. So, Mira, she's sweet. You know, that's her appeal. Bad boys like the sweet ones. But she's also rebellious, and Alex sees her, he's drawn to her, and it's love at first sight, and his heart's like boom, boom, boom. I'm sure that's not the only thing that was like boom, boom, boom. She sees him, and she's like afraid of all the vampires around her, but then she's just like, oh, look at you, Commissioner. You are so fun. So, like all relationships, yes, they see each other, it's googly eyes, they love each other, but it's like playing ping pong, they go back and forth, like, I love you, I hate you, I love you, oh no, not today. So, it's complicated, like most relationships, they're not going to get along 100% of the time, which I appreciate because it just makes it feel more authentic. I need to know that characters are struggling, just because when I'm having a crappy day, I need to know that even my fictional fantasy characters have crap lives sometimes. It just makes me feel better as a person and whole. So, yeah. But, back to the book. And not my sadness right now. Vampires. People. Vampires in charge. People afraid of vampires. Logically making sense. Just hear me out. I'm just going to go back to this. Like, let's rewind, because I just want everybody to really, like, dig in deep and feel that logic. Let's think of it on this level, okay? If monsters were really, like, real, if the vampires were real, I know there's going to be somebody commenting on here that they're a vampire or something. I feel it. Okay. But if they were real, and they were hiding from us, the food, y'all, we are the food, and they're a lot stronger. So if they're hiding from us, that would be like a lion hiding from a gazelle, because the lion's afraid that if the gazelle knew it was there, it could be wiped out, it would be in trouble. Like, you see, yeah, you get it now. There's where that logic lies. So back to kudos to Mia for getting that part right. Like, I appreciate it. I do. Sorry to hurt anybody else's fragile human ego. Sorry. Like, if you really felt like a zombie apocalypse or a vampire attack was going to come and you're just going to, like, rifle up and be in charge. No. Somebody's going to eat you. Like, that's just real life. I'm sorry that I had to be that person for you. I am going to give you a little snippet of the book. The first chapter, this is probably one of the longer readings that I've done. That's why this video is actually later than I usually get it. Because even though it's longer, I still want to give it the kind, tender, loving Karen that I give all of my reviews. Because length doesn't matter. I'm not going to be lengthist. And I'm going to put just as much work into it as I do all of them. And this book, it's so elegantly written. I'm just going to say that. It's beautifully tragic. Like there's just something that I absolutely loved about it. So it deserves every moment that I spent on it. Like seriously, I feel like once Mia's name gets out there and people know her stuff, she's going to blow up, y'all. Like this, when I keep talking about hidden gems and treasures and following me so you can get these hidden gems, this is like the big O, like ruby. This is the diamond in the rough. This is what Jafar made Aladdin dive in, and that was it. That's it. Like, this is the good stuff. And I think you would be missing out if you didn't give it a chance because, like, big books get intimidating for some people. We have busy lives, but it's worth every moment. I will say, though, because I want to give warning, because I don't want you to be like, gosh, Katie, you didn't tell us. Now I'm scared. This is formatted a little different than most books. So a lot of the times when you come into a novel, you've got a lot of white space up at the top when you start new chapters. I'm going to make sure it's far enough you can't see the words. So whenever you come... Okay, so all the chapters start up here at the top. Usually in a book, the chapter's going to come down here, okay? So you usually have more white space, and I think it's visually appealing to people because it just makes it feel less intimidating. Like, you've got that, oh, yeah, I'm allowed to stop now feeling. I don't really know. I didn't make up the rules. It is what it is. This doesn't bother me at all, but I could see where that would be intimidating if you looked at it and you're like, oh my God, so many words. But with that being said, the author does break it into parts, so it makes it, even though it's a long story, she puts it in nice little digestible pieces. So it's not like you're picking up the whole pizza and like rolling it and eating like a tortilla, unless that's your thing. Like, you do you, I'll do me. But I like a pizza slice, and that's what she's giving you. So you don't have to eat the entire pizza at once. She's got it divided into parts that make it easier to follow so you don't feel as overwhelmed. So, okay. Now, go ahead and listen to the story. I will get back with you as soon as it's over. Vale by Michele. Chapter 1, Beneath the Veil. The real issue is how to bomb them to pieces without causing even more martyrs to spring up for their cause. The voice of the only woman at the table was heavy with disgust. She slid her tongue along sharp teeth, biting the tip. She was heavy-handed in setting her glass down, blood sloshing up the sides and running down the inside in slow, uneven legs. Besides, it's not as though they have a real chance of winning. The room murmured in quiet agreement, but all eyes were on Alexander Vale, the man who stood with his back to the table. He looked from the floor to ceiling windows of the commission onto the darkened streets below.
No,
he said, at last, turning. His voice was strong and controlled, with the gentle lilt of a country long before destroyed.
The real issue is how to eradicate the terrorists without damaging the innocents. Unless you want to create more revolutionaries than we could easily subdue, bombing the cities and towns indiscriminately is always off the table.
The tone of his voice left no room for discussion. Of course, Commissioner. His words and tenor returned her to her place, and she folded her hands, lowering her gaze to the table.
Is there anything else?
Alex panned his eyes around the room, and in the silence, nodded. Then let's be dismissed.
We will have the gathering with the Protovan in a few days to finalize these discussions and move forward.
The 8 vampires around the table stood, and in turn each said, "Good evening, Commissioner," as they moved toward the door. Alex lingered by the window, still watching the people in the square below, when, at last, the remaining member of the committee came to stand beside him. The Dominions of the Unified Armed Forces adjusted his tie and straightened his uniform. You can't blame them for how they feel. His friend was right. Alex almost couldn't blame the members of the Intelligence Committee for wanting a full-blown war against the humans. They had all been promoted to their positions since the Great Rebellion, the last revolution 25 years before, when the bloodshed had been rampant. Archontes had been slaughtered in their beds. Every person at that table had lost someone they cared for. For their part, the Esnes had been subjected to the worst genocide of their collective memory. It had been atrocity after atrocity until one faction had risen to victory. Part of that victory had come at Alex's hand. However, he wasn't a warmonger. The cabinet knew that. Just as much as he would uphold the status quo, he also wouldn't kill mortals without cause. Not only would it encroach upon the Concordia, but it would violate what he stood for as commissioner. Alex had taken an oath to protect the city and the towns of the Dominion. To him, that oath included the Esnes.
Seraphim, it will never end if we don't stop the reasons for the rebellions. The southern and western borders are always more willing to fight. They are too inspired by their fellow Esnes and other dominions. The killing towns of innocents who might be harboring a half-dozen rebels, that doesn't quash those who fight us. It merely creates legions of them.
He faced the general.
Victoria knows that. She has been a soldier long enough to know better than to wage war with tactics that will only breed more resentment than fear can contain.
Old friend, Seraphim chuckled. Victoria may indeed know better, but how else to get you to even speak her name? Alex furrowed his brow and shook his head.
Don't.
All I am saying, the general laughed again, is that you are alone. Every woman of a certain rank is trying to garner your attention, even some of the married ones. If not by your approval, then perhaps they can do so by requiring remedial education. When Alex turned back to the window, his friend sighed. At this point, training a pet would be a step up from being a bachelor.
That's appalling.
We are agreed. But you are a powerful man, and powerful men cannot bear the weight of the world without a helpmate. Choose from among the many who would be fit to stand by your side. Is this
truly how you wish to close a meeting that discussed ending 1,000 lives, with whether or not I dine and sleep alone?
Someone must sacrifice himself on your altar. Better your old friend than the Protovan. A voice came from the darkened hallway outside of the conference room.
Should I bring the card around, sir?
Alex turned away from the window and picked up a portfolio from off the conference table, putting distance between Seraphim.
Yes, thank you, Usher. I'll meet you downstairs momentarily.
Asher, a towering black man with deep-set eyes and a bald head, nodded once before disappearing through the open conference door. Alex slipped his files into the leather case by his chair and logged out of the computer that had been projecting images from the Intelligence Bureau.
On that note, General, there will be no bodies left behind on my altar here tonight.
Seraphim gave a bow of his head with a small smile and walked toward the door. Have a good night, Commissioner. Alex looked around the empty room for a moment to gather his thoughts, unsure of which left him more disturbed. The idea of killing a border town full of innocents, or having the Protovan assign him a match. Both thoughts made him shudder. He left the remnants of the meeting behind, knowing that a cleaning squad would have the room back to standard within the hour. In the ride down the elevator, he forced his mind to clear. There would be plenty of time for work once he was home. Alex would pore over the documents to prepare for the meeting with the Protovan of the Northeastern Dominion. If luck was on his side, he would come up with a result that would please everyone. It was no secret that he was in the minority when it came to preserving human lives in towns, but he was also the most respected commissioner in the United Front. The Northeastern Dominion had had the fewest uprisings of any other dominion, and there was a measure of peace for the Esnes who lived there. So long as he successfully continued to make a case for his position, Alex didn't fear a change in protocol. No mortal wanted the constant wars that the Western Dominion was known for, or the near servitude of the Southern Dominion. While the immortals in each place still had the reins of power, their authority always struck Alex as tenuous at best. He wouldn't trade the lifestyle he had helped create for that. He stepped outside into the night. Vampires moved all around him, with the occasional human, head lowered, scattered through. Esnes hated to be out after dark, and, even in a moderately safe state, it was common for them to be harassed and bullied, especially by the Subalterns. Mortal workdays ended at 4 o'clock so that they could easily be in their homes by sunset. Their curfew, however, was not until 10, and although Alex didn't understand it, some humans were willing to risk the danger to be out after dark. The black town car came to a stop in front of him, and Alex waved Asher back inside to open the door himself. He was about to step off the curb when the breeze blew the sound of a woman's voice to his ears, and he froze. In that instant, he couldn't breathe, and his heart thumped so strongly in his chest that he thought it might burst through. The sound was clear, with a light organ punctuating the notes of her crisp voice and accompaniment. Alex was a soldier, a commander, a vampire, an Archon, yet, in that moment, he was a slave to the voice. His entire body threatened to collapse under the whip it lashed with each melodic note. "Is everything all right, sir?" Asher stepped from the car and looked at Alex with concern. Swallowing only further knotted the lump in his throat, but Alex regained his composure. "Hold the car for a moment." He put his briefcase in the back seat and closed the door. The sound was coming from the city church, situated across the street from the commission.
I'll be right back.
Okay, see, I promised. I didn't tell you anything that wasn't in the first chapter. I will say that what you saw was such a little snippet. This story it's complex. It's raw, it's beautiful, it's sad, it's poignant. I think you'll fall in love with it the way that I did. And like I said before, her writing is just so eloquent. And Mira and Alex have issues, but there's just something about their complex relationship that's enticing. It draws you in. You want to be a part of their world, but not be a part of their world because it would be really scary. And I'm just going to say that it'd be dangerous. It'd be kind of dangerous. But we all love forbidden love tropes. I mean, guilty. You're probably guilty of it too. So check it out. And the good news is, me and Michele, she also has other books out. So this isn't her first rodeo. I'm going to get that up there so you can see. Sorry, I shake. It's a thing. Alright. You can find the link to her book, her Amazon link, down in the descriptions. I'm also going to leave you a link to her author's page, her website. Go ahead and check that out, especially since she does have other stories. And I heard a little rumor that she has a new book coming out in the spring. So if you really enjoy this, be on the lookout. I don't know if she's released the name of it yet, so I'm not going to release the name of it because, that's hers. That's her thing. But I did want to say, once you read this and you love it, keep an eye out for her new book because I think it's going to be very worth it. So if you enjoyed this review, if you enjoy my readings and all of my illustrations that I include with it, don't forget, subscribe, like, share it with your friends, let everybody else discover all of these gems. Okay. I'm going to be sharing a book called 10. It's one of those quick reads, and you don't want to miss that one either. I hope you enjoyed Vale. Please remember, Amazon link. Don't forget, when you read the book, leave her a review on Amazon. It is our bread and butter. So, thank you. Have a great week.